Hello, this is a screen replacement for a Sager NP9130 or a Clevo p151EM1. It's a little hard to see, but the model number is right here. It says p151EM1. Other than some difficult adhesive, this turned out to be a standard laptop screen replacement where you pop the bezel, remove, and replace the display. So if that's all you're here for, you can go ahead and do that. This screen happened to be cracked while in a supposedly laptop-safe backpack. You see right here, there was a little bit of a pressure point on my backpack, and I leaned back on it and cracked the display. So laptop backpacks aren't a guarantee against broken screens, even if the laptop's closed and well tucked away. So first, you're going to want to take away the 4 rubber feet in the corners of the bezel. Here I found that it's a little bit more difficult. Here's an example of one of them. To take these out, also speed up taking out the rest of the 4. Then unscrew the 4 number 1 Phillips screws securing the bezel to the back frame. Try to pull one of these off here. And there's that. So once you get all 4 of these out, you'll be able to start working your way to pulling the bezel off slowly. If you have a spudger or a small plastic tool like to remove it, it will go a little bit easier, but I'm in the process of moving, which is why the camera's at an awkward angle and I'm not using my spudger. But it is possible to use your fingernails to slowly pry off the bezel from the back frame. From here, it's a little bit easier. I find out that if you work from the inside of the bezel, which I'll figure out in a little bit, and work your way towards the outside instead of working your way from the top down, you'll be able to get the bezel off a little bit easier on this. But the main point is just to go slow, make sure you don't rip the plastic, crack anything. It takes a little bit of bending, but all bezels are like that nowadays. You just have to wiggle it, and eventually it will pop and wiggle off so that you can remove the screws in the next part. Once you have the bezel off, you will want to also get your screwdriver again. I have a number 0 Phillips on here, and at some point I switch it out for number 1. But there on the top, there are 2 screws on the inner part. The outer hole is for the securing the bezel to the back frame, and 2 screws on the inner parts on the bottom that you need to remove the display frame from the back cover. And so once you take out the 6 total silver screws, you should be able to pull up the display frame and the display away from the back cover. Here I'm going a little slow in case there is something attached to the back of the display sticking it to the back cover. And in this case, all there was a little bit of the adhesive from the video cable attaching it or sticking it to the back cover. In other monitors, you want to be a little bit careful because the Wi-Fi antennas might be stuck on or caught on something, and if you pull those out, you might tear the cable or damage the connectors. So from here, you'll want to unplug the video connector. First, you'll need to take off the tape securing the connector to the display. And after that, you'll just want to pull straight down on the cable. And again, the video or the adhesives on the Clevo are very, very well attached to whatever they're sticking on, so I'm going to fast forward again here. Eventually I end up using a T-pin shown here to help pull the cable out. Like, you'll want to be careful pulling the cable out because if you tear the cable, you'll have to order a new one, and then you'll also have to disassemble the bottom part of the laptop in addition to replace the cable connector on the motherboard side, which will make things a lot more difficult for you. Now, once the cable's unplugged, you'll want to go for the 3 screws on each side connecting the display to the display frame. Once that comes out, display will fall free if you don't hold it. So when you're taking out the last screw, you'll definitely want to hold the display with one hand and use the screwdriver with the other. Again, my magnetic screwdriver is packed up, so I have to hold or have the laptop on the floor like this so that I can also have the laptop somewhat in frame. But things are a lot easier if you stand the laptop on the side and you don't have to fight gravity. So here I am taking the last screw out, holding the display with one hand and unscrewing the display with the other. And the cracked display is out. Here, removing the packaging from the replacement screen that I got from laptopscreen.com. I've had decent success with their stuff in the past. Chose to go with a glossy screen this time. Now that the display's out and you're putting the new one back in, just follow all the steps in reverse from this point on. I chose to go with a glossy because I preferred the color. Like, some people prefer matte, some people prefer glossy. I found that within the same model, glossy displays are easier to read in sunlight if you don't mind the glare, and they also display colors a little bit more vibrantly, but they also pick up dust and fingerprints a lot more easily, and it is a lot more difficult to, well, it's not more difficult, but it's a little bit more obvious when dust or fingerprints get on a glossy screen. So there's pros and cons for both matte and glossy. It's up to you to decide which you prefer better. Once the new display is screwed into the display frame, slide the video cable back up. Again, no locking bars or anything that you have to fiddle with. And screw the display frame back into the back case. Now at this point, you'll see me fiddle with the bezel a little bit, and I've forgotten which side on the top part of the display frame screws into the back cover and which screw hole is for the bezel to screw into the display frame and the back cover. Here I'm turning it on just to make sure everything's working. So I hold up the bezel for a little bit and check to see which side goes where. Once you have that sorted out, you can screw in the display frame here to the back cover, snap the bezel back on in a little bit, and then screw the bezel back into the display frame and the back cover. It's nice to check the video connection before you put everything back together in case you either nicked the video cable, or what's happened to me is I've pulled the video cable such that it came a little bit loose from the motherboard in some cases in the past. Then when you go back to turn it on, the display is all full of lines or lit unevenly, and it's nice not to have to go back and have to unscrew everything to fix something. So periodically just turning on the laptop and making sure that the display looks fine. It's a good idea in order to save you a little bit of time. Overall, this shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes start to finish. It took me 20 for this video without slowing it down. But yeah, once everything's in, snap the bezel back into place. Helps to close the cover for a bit and push down to get the last few points to snap into place. Turn it on and make sure everything's working, and success. Thanks for watching.